Dear Earthmates, we are visiting Iman Humaydan from Lebanon, but living in Paris currently. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes.
Living in Paris.
Yes, and Iman Humaydan is the founding president of the Lebanese PEN Centre. She's on the board now, also an academic and a person of literature and naturally a human rights activist, being a PEN leader. Thank you so much, dear Iman. And many people may not know that Iman means faith. Is that so in Arabic?
Yes, it means faith. It's a heavy name.
It is. It is a name.
Yeah.
It may have or may not have a religious connotation because we have faith in the progress of humanity as well, or literature.
That's true.
Anyway, so how did your love in literature begin?
Well, it's a long story. I mean, like many, I'm going to answer like the answer of many writers. They say, when I was a child. Actually, when I was a child, I wasn't really thinking that I will become a writer. I wasn't writing. I wasn't even scribbling. I was playing. And I remember my very strong memory about my childhood is that always I was against the mainstream ideas, even the very serious, like religious ideas. I used to express my rejection and saying the contrary. And this put me in many problems in my childhood, in school, at home, but I had a very stubborn head. And I started writing at the age of 11. And I remember exactly when. It was 1967. I was born in December 1956. And in 1967, I wasn't even 11. The war started. It was June 1967. The war started, the Israeli aggression against the Arab countries. And I remember it was the first time in my life that I wanted to express something. And I still remember my father used to paint all the windows with blue color because he was afraid of the bombardment of the planes. Because all the Arabic countries were in war, and definitely Lebanon was also in war. Of course, we were not bombarded at that time, but I remember that I wrote like 3 sentences about the blue color, that it is similar to the sky, and the sky is our redemption, something like that. And at that time, my father recognized that I love reading, I love writing, and he started offering me books. And the books were, I can say now in a critical way, they were oriented towards nationalism, patriotism, loving the country. And my father came from, he was affiliated to the National Syrian Party, a party that believes in the unification of the Arab countries along with Cyprus and Iskenderun. And so his books, the books that he used to offer me, were into this belief. And at a certain moment, I find myself trying to say different things and trying to find different books. And from that time, I started really writing things that have nothing to do with what I have read, what I have heard. I use the material of what I have read and what I have heard to say something else. And it started at the age of 14. But I come from a society where the writer is the male, not the female. And it took me a long time to have the courage to publish. I published my first short story in the newspapers. I was 32. So a long time, I lived a long time piling all the paragraphs, the short stories, the texts. And then suddenly I was able to publish my first short story in an Arabic newspaper. And also publishing was related to another war. And at that time, it was the civil war in Lebanon.
Yes, civil war. Yes, I remember that tragedy. How is the situation now, roughly?
Well, it's not good at all. It's bad. Lebanon is on a bifurcation, existential bifurcation. The Lebanon we know, we are just searching for it. We cannot find it. And we cannot tell where it's heading. I know that it is a playground in a region where there are very great conflicts: Iran, Saudi Arabia, Israel, the Americans, Turkey, and Lebanon is a very weak, poor country. And on its land, there is a military party that's stronger than the state, which is affiliated to another country. So it's a very strong situation. On top of that, we have the economic deterioration that pushed all young people to leave, that pushed all skilled people to leave, that pushed all academic people to leave. And this is a big, big loss for Lebanon.
I see. Unfortunately, we have a similar situation in Turkey. As you know.
Yeah.
Many people are leaving, and there's a growing sectarian religious oppression.
Yeah.
And the importance of secularity.
Yeah.
Is more obvious today. I mean, many Western friends take it for granted because the generations, it took generations in the West to earn, gain certain rights. But in Turkey, we owe a lot to Atatürk, as you know, in terms of gender equality, etc.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it's very interesting. If we want just to have a look at the map of the Middle East, well, the economic situation is a big, big, big reason for people to leave. But the most important also is the freedom of expression, mainly among the youth people. Imagine in Lebanon in October 2019, around 1 million young Lebanese was in the street to say no to corruption, no to leading the country to disaster. Nobody listened to them. And hundreds of thousands of these young people left because they were harassed, they were beaten up, they were put in prison. Okay, the economic situation is a reason, but parallel to this, the human rights and the freedom of expression that pushed them to go away. The lack of freedom of expression.
I see. And such anti-democratic rulers, they must know that their oppression is against themselves as well, because they are making the country a social desert.
Yeah.
I mean, you will have a desert, okay, rule the desert.
Yeah, they don't care. They don't care. They don't care. And every law that's coming out now in Lebanon is to protect their chair, to protect their positions, nothing else. Any law that's coming out. Now, a new law that was issued maybe a year ago, that any criticism of the president is considered to be an insult. Imagine. I'm living now in a country where every day on the television, I see people criticizing the president. Does it mean an insult to the president? I mean, how people can express their political opinion if they don't criticize? And what a kind of a country will come out with if all people, they are like sheep. They just say, yes, yes. It's not the nature of Lebanon. Lebanon was the berceau, was the bed of all political refugees coming from the Arab world, all even writers, journalists. It was a welcoming place for freedom of expression. And now just the contrary. The Lebanese are leaving because of the same reason, but they cannot go nowhere because they are surrounded by countries who are worse than Lebanon with respect to freedom of expression. So they are going to the West if they can go to the West. And this is another problem. I mean, this is another problem, to go to the West and leave your own country. I don't think this is the solution. So where is the solution? And me as a writer, I have all these questions in my mind. When I write, I don't write for the sake of art and creativity. I write because I have many questions. Even my existence as a human being and an Arab woman and a woman is at stake. My identity is at stake. So I find myself like in such a situation, we have no other alternative but to write again and write. Because we are connected. I'm connected to what's going on around me, what's going on in my country. Even if I'm living in Paris, the first thing I do in the morning, they hear the Lebanese news, reading the Lebanese newspapers, opening my social media page to connect with friends who are still living there and know what's going on and be sure that they are all right. And this is a really, it's a big problem, more than a problem, that the writer who's living abroad is living in two places, two worlds, two languages also, because I write in Arabic. Tiraillé, as we say in French, I'm divided. And when I meet European writers here, like when I meet French or British or American coming to Europe, I find there is a whole difference between us. We are coming from countries where ipso facto we are against the state. We are against power. We are against politicians, which is not the case here. So I see writers who are getting money from their, I'm talking about the whole Europe, from the Ministry of Culture, or while we to be independent and honest, we stay away from these institutions. So it's a whole difference.
Yes.
It's a whole difference between us as writers coming from the East, let's say. I don't want to say only the Arab world, because also other countries have the same problem, and writers coming from North America or from Europe. It's a totally different approach to production, literary production.
Yes. How did your interest in pen start?
Well, I remember in 2012, I was contacted by a friend who was in the old PEN Lebanon. You know, PEN Lebanon is an old association. It started before the Lebanese war, actually, before the Lebanese civil war. And then it stopped because of the war. And one of my friends was a member there. Actually, she wasn't my friend. When she contacted me, it was the first time we meet. She contacted me very early 2012 or late 2011 to tell me, look, I read your interventions. You are very active on the literary scene in Lebanon, on the cultural activities. Why don't we do something? And I said, I did. At that time, I founded a nonprofit institute called Arawi. It is to develop and to protect and to promote youth literature, only the youth. And she said, okay, why don't we do something bigger, like to integrate also the adult writers? I mean, adults in the sense that they are above 18. And I found this idea very, very interesting. And we founded in September 2012 another PEN Lebanon, not the old one, which included Arabophone, because the first PEN was a Francophone PEN and it was more or less connected to the French PEN. So the Arabophone didn't find themselves there. And in this new PEN, we integrated the Anglophone, Arabophone, Francophone, and even the Armenian writers, because, you know, in Lebanon, we have a big community of Armenians. And that was my dream, to integrate all languages in the new PEN Lebanon. And we did it. Thanks God we did it. And I was the president from 2015 till the beginning of this year. And we had elections, very objective elections, free elections, democratic, and a new president. We elected a new president who is a very well-known, well-established novelist called Hassan Dawood, and I really recommend you to have also an interview with him.
Gladly.
Yes, yes.
I'm happy to.
Yeah.
Do you sometimes, or would you sometimes write in English and French?
Well, yes. Actually, I'm Arabophone and then I'm Anglophone. I learned French since I came to France. I'm not a Francophone. And now I don't consider myself a Francophone because I studied in English schools in Lebanon, and then I went to the American University of Beirut, and there I graduated MA in anthropology. I did BA sociology and then MA in anthropology. When I write scientific researches, and this is very interesting, when I write proposals for my for Arawi, for example, to organize events, workshops, creative writing workshops, I write all in English because this is how I learned. I mean, the scientific side in me, it's the English language. And when it comes to poetry, to writing short stories, novels, I switch to Arabic without being aware of it. So it's very funny. Like I was in the Emirate 2 weeks ago because I was a jury member for the Arabic Booker Prize. And I went there to announce the winning novel. It was on the 22nd of May. And there I met some people who work in cultural associations and who are very interested to do workshops of creative writing, which is my work here in Paris. I will come later to it. I teach in the university, creative writing in Arabic. And they said, wow, it's interesting. Please write us one paragraph, like a page of proposal. And I found myself writing in English. And then they said, we want it in Arabic. So I translated it into Arabic and I sent it. So I switch very easily between the two languages. I learned French here because my children are Francophone. And actually, I'm here from the beginning because my children came here. And then I'm going to be maybe very soon a French citizen. So we don't know how life takes us. I mean, we don't know. Life takes us sometimes to places that we're not expecting it.
That's right. In 1980, there was a military coup d'etat in Turkey. Mm-hmm. And before that, as a young socialist poet,
yes,
although I was threatened by fascists, I refused to leave Turkey.
Wow.
And I said, it's my responsibility to the society, etc. And my wife had a green card. And she said, let's go to the United States. I said, no, I refuse to leave Turkey. And then after the military coup, I went to Saudi Arabia to work for Aramco. And so I refused to go to the United States. I went to Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
That's the summary of my
your experience.
And in Saudi Arabia, I love the Saudi people. And I have recently had an interview with a Saudi poet, Raid Al-Jishi. He is a wonderful person. And you can watch our interview.
What's her name?
His name is
his name
Raid Al-Jishi. When you check my YouTube, you will also find the interview.
D'accord.
When I was there, I also met teachers from Lebanon. And one of them was Armenian, Mesrop Taschian. And he's in Canada now. It's been a long time, more than about 40s. And we need to improve our interconnections.
Yes.
In the Middle East. I mean, many people leave their lives to the hands of the governments or ruling parties or big international organizations or big companies. People like you and me, like us, we have certain, at least courage a little bit necessarily, but I mean, we're just trying to live decently. That's all. And so we don't want to be courageous. We don't, why bother with courage? But we have to. It's so difficult for Western friends to understand how much oppression we fight daily.
Of course.
I for a long time, till my daughter was a university student in the States, I tried to keep a low profile in Turkey because I was afraid that something would be done to my daughter. And all these, anyway, so it's you don't only think more. If you have children, you consider your children more than yourself. So that's why Western colleagues, our wise Western colleagues, listen to us before they declare a statement. So if they don't consult us, then what they say may be contrary against the good of the people in our countries, and
that's true. Yeah. That's why connection is so important. I mean, as you are saying, the interconnection is so important to explain to others what's going on in your country and to help to clarify the picture.
Exactly. Yes, and the style, the words you choose. For example, the word authoritarian has a positive connotation in Turkey. Because autoritaire uh,
Oui.
who is expected to be authoritarian, a
Yeah.
teacher, a ruler,
A man. Yes.
respected. So
Yes.
when Western colleagues say Erdogan is authoritarian, it's not a criticism.
Yeah.
We need other words.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
You
these are.
remind me, yeah. You know, you remind me of something that the novel we chose to be the winning novel in this year's Arabic Booker Prize, it was a novel about what does it mean to be a man.
Ah.
And it was written by a Libyan writer who's very young, like 31 years old. And it was his first novel, and talking about how the society and how the family, how they shape a man and the role of a man. So, of course, our societies think the word authoritarian is related to masculinity. And nobody is against it because the mind is shaped this way, like a masculinity should be strong, should be tough, should be even misogyne, like a hate women. And this novel, it touched me so much because it's questioning the role of man. They say, hey, maybe it is the generator of violence in our society. And, you know, I have always these questions, like when a topic comes up, like the one you opened about authoritarianism, when I write, and of course, after my living here, always I have characters who pass by France, who were in France and they left to Lebanon. Always I have this dialogue between places, and I have also dialogue between terminologies and between definitions. What does it mean to be someone who's living outside their own country? What does it mean to be a woman, an Arab woman in a foreign society? What does it mean to write a language which no one understands in the welcoming country? You have always to wear two hats: a hat to be yourself and to hat to explain yourself. And this is very tough, and this is, no one does it. Not an American writer, not a French writer, not a Norwegian writer, because they are like fish living in their own water, but we are not. We are alien fish. We are living in a water that we are trying to be our water. And this is our accomplishment, to come out by living in a water which becomes ours. It's our work, and it's a long work. It's a long journey to do it.
True. And dear Iman, another traditional question which I find useful is, how do you write? Do you have a specific time, place, or do you use a pen and pencil or directly computer?
It's always in my hand. I use a pencil, actually. And this reminds me always of Yashar Kemal, because he was my favorite writer in Turkey. I visited him twice, and he showed me hundreds of pencils in his drawers. And I had a very long interview with him. And every year when I remember my visit to him, and when it's his death anniversary, really, I carry my pencil, and he told me, write always, don't leave your pen, and don't leave your country. But I betrayed Yashar Kemal. I left my country. well, it's okay. I mean,
It's not a betrayal. It's a
it's his own vision. It's his own vision that we should always be, because he said it in a time where the social media wasn't that strong. It wasn't that you live, even if you live in Hawaii, you can be in your country at the same time because of this social media around you and the communication. Well, to come back to your question, how do I write? I don't have at all habits, not even with coffee, not even with tea, not even with, I can write in a coffee shop full of people watching football and drinking beer, and I'm in a corner writing. I have the ability, thanks God, to shut down my ears while I'm writing. And maybe it has to do with the long years of civil war in Lebanon, where to survive, you have to shut down your ears against the bombardment that's coming on top of you. Otherwise, I don't know what will happen to you. Maybe, I'm just between brackets. So I write when I feel I want to write. And I write when I have a delay that I have to finish my novel, that somebody is pushing me, hey, you have to finish it because you have to hand it at the end of the month. So now I'm writing, like, mainly I love to write during the forenoons, the matinee. I start at 9, and then at 1 o'clock I stop and I go out. I go out either to have lunch outside or to walk, or go to the bibliothèque, to the National Library, because while writing, many questions come out, especially now in the novel that I'm writing, because I'm writing about a family, but it is a pretext. Actually, I'm using this family to write about the history of Lebanon. So I have a lot of questions that come out always while I'm writing about assassinations of certain figures in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, the beginning of certain unrest, social unrest, 58, 60, 69, 75. So there are many questions that I have to find answers for them. And going out is one of the ways. Another way, when I feel blockage, when I feel that I cannot go on, I go to the kitchen and I cook. And you cannot imagine how much things open up in my mind while I'm cutting cucumber and cutting carrot and doing colorful things in the kitchen. Even sometimes I don't know what to do with a character, and just leaving the paper and going to another room or to the street or walking, it opens up things for me. And I hope to finish the novel that I'm writing by the end of the year.
Very good. And what would you like to suggest to young Earthmates?
To be themselves. To be themselves, and they don't listen to what publishers want them to write, and to believe in themselves, especially those young people who are connected to the social causes and to the political causes. Those young people who went to the streets in 2014 and 2015 and 2019 in my country, they are true souls. They have true souls. And what I want them, because many of them, they started writing, by the way, I want them not to betray their inner selves, and to go on and to believe in themselves.
Yes. And in Turkey, you know that in 2013, wonderful, peaceful Gezi protests took place, but the Erdogan government has been trying to criminalize those wonderful, peaceful protests. And we need that spirit of freedom and courage.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, dear Iman Humaydan.
Thank you.
Anything else you would like to add?
No, just to tell you it was a pleasure, and continue, bravo, and I will listen to your interviews.
We are together. That's what I say. I enjoy saying this. We are together. And you're always welcome to the Earth Civilization Network meetings, at monthly meetings. I will send you the...
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
We're together.